What's going on, everybody? It's me, Azizz, and today we're going to be discussing different ways that you can increase your credit score. What we're going to be doing in this video is analyzing each credit score factor and how you could use it to your advantage to skyrocket your credit score. The first factor that we're going to be looking at is payment history, which makes up a huge chunk of your credit score at 35%. So make sure that you have this factor nailed down. Using this factor to your advantage is pretty straightforward. You just have to make your payments on time without any excuses. If you're somebody who's been making late payments recently, just within a couple of payments that you make on time, you will notice that your credit score just shoots all the way up. If you're the type of person who has a good record of making their payments on time, you will notice more of a gradual increase rather than a huge spike in your credit score. Regardless of what your score is at the moment, you should always put paying your bills on time at the top priority. The next factor is the second largest one, being utilization rate at 30%. Considering its high value, not a lot of people know what utilization rate is. Utilization rate is simply how much you owe divided by your total credit limit. If you'd like more clarification on how utilization rate works, check out the video that I've made where I break down each and every single credit score factor to the T. When using utilization rate within your strategy, you want to make sure that you have this as low as possible. Ideally, you want to have your utilization rate at 0%. Meaning that you've paid off all of your bills on time. If you're in a situation where you cannot make a full payment towards your bills, try to aim for anywhere between 0% and 9%. This is considered to be within the excellence range of the utilization rate factor. If you're in a sticky situation and it's still not practical for you to aim for 0 to 9%, my suggestion would be to open up a new line of credit. Remember how I was saying that utilization rate is how much you owe divided by how much of a credit limit that you can use? By opening up a new line of credit, you are adding to your total available credit limit, which will decrease your total utilization rate. To get a more clear understanding of this, let's look at an example. If you originally owe $1,000 and have a bunch of credit cards that total up to $9,000, dividing 1,000 by 9,000, your utilization rate is 11%. Let's just say that you apply and get approved for a credit card that has a $2,000 limit. Assuming that you still owe that same $1,000, instead of dividing it by 9,000, now you have to divide it by 11,000. Ultimately, this will decrease your utilization rate from 11% to 9%, bringing you down to the range that you should ideally be within. The third factor that we're going to be looking at is your credit history, which makes up 15% of your total credit score. Credit history is exactly what it sounds like. It's basically an average of how long you've had credit for. To calculate this, you would just take the age of each and every single credit line that you have and dividing it by how many you have in total. To take an example of this, let's just say that you have 3 different credit cards. The first credit card you've had for 10 years, the second credit card you've had for 4 years, and the last you've had for 1 year. Adding this all together and dividing it by 3, you have a credit history of 5 years. Taking advantage of this factor will really depend on how long you've had credit for. The strategy is to open up as many credit lines as you can. I wouldn't suggest you do this if you have a credit history of over 7 years already, because by doing this, it may set you back a year or two, depending on what your credit history is right now. On the other hand, if you are somebody with lower credit history, chances are this won't set you back as far, and you'll actually be strengthening your credit history over a long period of time. Let's look at it with an example. We have person A and person B. Person A only has 2 different types of credit: a credit card and a phone bill. The credit card he's had for 3 years, and the phone bill he's only been paying for 2 years. Adding this up and dividing it by 2 has a credit history of 2.5 years. Person B, on the other hand, has 3 credit cards, 1 line of credit, 1 internet bill, and 1 mortgage. Each and every single one of these lines of credit have 10 years, 7 years, 6 years, 7 years, 6 years, and another 6 years. Adding all of these together and dividing them by 6, person B only has a credit history of 7 years. If person B were to open up a new credit card, for example, their credit history would go from 7 years to 6.1 years. That's a major setback when you compare it to when person A does this. If person A does this, their credit history will go from 2.5 years to 2 years. And this is exactly why I wouldn't recommend anyone that has a high credit history to do this strategy. The fourth factor that we're going to be looking at is credit diversity, which makes up 10% of your entire credit score. And yes, you guessed it. By having different types of credit within your credit file, you can actually increase your credit score. Together with your credit history, you can combine both of these together. So instead of having 15 and 10% individually, you combine them together and get yourself 25%. Here are a couple of different credit types that you can actually open. Credit cards, mortgages, lines of credit, internet bills, phone bills, auto payments, furniture purchases, and so many more. Try to incorporate as many different types of credit within your credit file. The more diversity you have, the stronger your credit score is going to be. The fifth factor that we'll be looking at is new credit, which makes up 10%. Opening up a new line of credit will make up 10% of your credit score. But even though it only makes up such a small amount, you can actually use this to your full advantage. So let this sink in. If you open a new line of credit, which is 10%, making sure that it's a different type of credit to factor into your credit diversity, ultimately you'll be adding to your total credit limit to decrease your utilization rate. What I've just done is combine 3 different credit score factors and put them all into one. Now, if you have a credit history of less than 7 years, you might as well add that 15% to it as well, totaling up to 65%. This means that the only thing you're left off with is just paying your bills on time to account for payment history. Here's a little caveat. If you have a credit history of more than 7 years and open up a new line of credit, chances are that you actually might see your credit score go down. So make sure that you make an informed decision before opening up any lines of credit or anything of that nature. That's pretty much it, but what do you guys think? Have you ever used a strategy other than these to improve your credit score? Let us know in the comment section down below. Otherwise, let us know what you think about all these factors in general and if you're gonna try any of them out. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. This is me, Azizz, signing out. Peace.